I'm not Mitch Connor, and this stuff is like Camelot. It's just a silly place. Jihadi John still has access to his bank account. It's incomprehensible. The Islamic State group terrorist involved in the execution of multiple Western prisoners still has access to his British bank account. The UK government's independent investigator found that only 6 British jihadists have had their bank accounts frozen out of an estimated 600 fighting with the Islamic State group, said the Telegraph. The figures for assets frozen are remarkably low, said David Anderson, a high-ranking Queen's Counsel official and the UK government's independent investigator for terrorism legislation. Yes. So if you're high-ranking on the Queen's Counsel, why don't you freeze them? Because there's nothing of that in this article. Amazi, named Jihadi John, is a former British citizen serving as the terrorist group's executioner, which is a lie, appearing in videos that have depicted the violent beheadings of American and Japanese citizens, which is a lie. They're fake. But the terrorist wasn't among the list of bank accounts that has been frozen by British officials, because there's only 6 of them. Come on, really? Fucking liars. The small number of terrorist designations indicates that asset freezing law has played only a marginal role in combating the most serious terrorist threat of the present time. What, the government? Mr. Anderson wrote in his report, adding there needs to be greater use of asset freezing laws. There needs to be greater. Why don't you just fucking do it, or go, hey, Queen, freeze them. Come on. All told, the UK government has only frozen about $74,000, the investigator estimated. It's another example of the government failing to deliver on a promise it has made about protecting national security. No, they're just playing dumb. They're playing like they're fucking incompetent when they are not fucking incompetent. They know exactly what they're doing. It's called, what's it called? Basically, they're making an excuse, okay? Oh, we're just incompetent. We're trying. Really. Okay, so in other Jihadi John news, did Cage director train Jihadi John, the Cage group, the human rights group, supporting these Islamists, blah, blah, blah. They're not supporting them in that way, but, just... it's about their human rights and stuff, and they've been oppressed and blah, blah, blah. Just another bullshit front to sell you this fucking story. So this photograph appears to be... Wait. He's pictured with Mozambique. Later pictured? Where's the later picture? Are they going to show it? Nope, don't see it. Nope, Julian Assange, shill, douchebag, fake, just like Edward Snowden. No, they don't show it, that this guy is pictured with this guy at some point, but, this photograph appears to place this Mozambique at the same camp in late 2012, except Mwazi didn't go until 2013, so, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this is photoshopped, but anyway, I'll leave the link to this if you want to read it. I'm not even going to go over this anymore. It's kind of friggin' ludicrous. Okay, we got a Mirror article that's basically the same as this, and I'm also going to leave a link for the Sunday Times article, though you won't be able to read the whole thing unless you have a subscription. But these and this Fox News article here go over it too. Pretty sure this was Fox News article date. Yeah. Another this time an ex-ISIS hostage instead of somebody who was with ISIS, okay? The Spanish journalist named Javier Espinoza, he was subjected to mass executions by Jihadi John, allegedly, and he described the campaign of psychological and physical torture to which ISIS subjects its hostages. Now, if you haven't seen it, a couple of videos I made ago, I broke down the interview with the former ISIS member who said he saw Jihadi John kill Kenji Goto, the second of the 2 Japanese hostages, okay? And that was a flat-out lie, and so were his commentary. So is his commentary on it, and so is this, because you're going to find that we're going to have some contradictions here to what that guy said. So Javier Espinoza spent more than 6 months in ISIS captivity before his release in March last year, and said he had a number of interactions with the militant who has been unmasked as... Oh, no, he hasn't. David Cameron has been forced to defend the actions of MI5 after it was suggested that spies' attempts to recruit Emwazi could have pushed him into the arms of extremists. No. He was recruited, okay, or he was disappeared, one or the other. Because this ain't him down here. I'm sorry, those are not the same friggin' eyes. Describing his contact with the young man, who is now a leading public figure for the group in Syria, Espinoza said a group of British jihadists dubbed the Beatles had taken pleasure in daily threats and pretend executions. Everybody's saying we dubbed them the Beatles. Well, where's fucking Paul and George? And I'm sure they don't want to name anybody Ringo because Ringo sucks, right? So this Espinoza guy wrote in the Sunday Times, the Beatles, that was our nickname for the 3 British militants guarding us. Loved this sort of theater. The Beatles loved this sort of theater, he's saying. Everybody said it's the Beatles. You know, he says it as if he didn't know anybody else called them that. So anyway, he goes on. They had me sat on the floor, barefoot, with a shaven head, a thick beard, and dressed in the orange uniform that had made Guantanamo, the American prison, famous. There's people who think that these people are at Guantanamo Bay, and that's where they're actually filming this bullshit, in front of the blue screen, or green screens, or whatever. I'm sorry, not blue screens, green screens. Jihadi John wanted maximum drama. He had brought along an antique sword of the kind Muslim armies used in the Middle Ages. Oh yeah? Why didn't he use it in any of the beheadings? It was a blade almost a meter in length with a silver handle. That would be pretty fucking cool to use for a beheading if you like that sort of thing, don't you think? But no, he didn't use it once. After finishing with the sword, he holstered his pistol, a Glock. He placed it against my head and pulled the trigger 3 times. Click, click, click. It's called a mock execution, but not even this terrifying intimidation seemed to satisfy them. Now, if you go back to that video that I made on the interview with the ISIS defector, saying that he witnessed Jihadi John kill Kenji Goto, he said that they weren't doing it to scare them. They were doing the mock executions to... what's the word I'm looking for? Sorry, they were doing the mock executions because they wanted to desensitize them and because they wanted them to think that they weren't going to kill them, and that they were basically just trying to scare the Americans or whatever country the fake victim was from, into cowing to them and stuff, and so that maybe they'd leave them alone. Not for intimidation. There was no mention of intimidation from the ISIS defector. You can go watch the video to prove it. Just click on the name below the video there. Click on the videos tab. Then find it. It's very, very close to the top. It's on the top row. Anyway. Oh, Jesus. Don't start again, ads. The correspondents for Spanish newspaper El Mundo said the episode was one of several in the campaign of psychological and physical torture, privations, and humiliations that became the daily reality for 23 hostages, Europeans, Americans, and Latin Americans held in Syria by ISIS. Anyone remember John Cantley, or Can't Lie, as everybody seems to like to call him, that knows that it's fake as fucking hell? Anybody remember him saying, "They're treating me well"? So they weren't torturing him. The ISIS defector didn't talk about torturing them. Talked about doing mock executions so they'd think that they were safe. Not tormenting them, okay? More and more contradictions. The rest is just a bunch of bull that I've previously gone over. But now let's go to this Fox News article. It's going to say the same crap pretty much. Oh, this is funny, though. This wasn't added in the other articles. He said Emwazi caressed his neck with the long blade and described how he would behead Espinoza. Feel it? Cold, isn't it? Can you imagine the pain you'll feel when it cuts? Unimaginable pain, he quoted Emwazi as saying. Oh my God. He went on to describe precisely how the beheading would occur, the former hostage said, and then explained where he would place Espinoza's head, it had been done. Once again, contradicting the ISIS defector. They just can't get their fucking story straight. Now in this stupid video we're about to watch is this guy Benjamin Hall, okay? And I just want to note here, he's a jury member of the London Kurdish Film Festival, has trained at the New York Film Academy, and has recently been awarded a Reuters grant. He's a freelance journalist working for all these. I'll leave a link to this too. And he made this video of Syria, Iraq, where he's hanging out with ISIS and not getting kidnapped. Yeah, right.
In the mentality of ISIS, if you are not Muslim, I should be kill you, or rape your girls, or rape your daughter, rape your wife, and give you children, small children. This has happened with the Yazidi.
The brutality of ISIS described by a woman who has seen it firsthand in Iraq. She is Yazidi, basically Christian, living inside Iraq and under the threat of death from the terror group. Last month, 21 Coptic Christians from Egypt were beheaded by the Islamic State. We all witnessed that horrific scene on the beach in Libya.
If you watched it, you knew it was fake.
Towards Christians. The Jordanian
Same with
pilot
this.
who was burned alive was Muslim.
Anyway, that woman crying at the beginning, notice how it cut in the middle, so it very well could have been that they just used an eyedropper and let it drip down her face, and then started the, had her get into character and start the interview. So let's go on. Play, you piece of garbage.
Benjamin Hall is a journalist, and he wrote the book Inside ISIS, The Brutal Rise of a Terrorist Army, about what he witnessed firsthand in the Middle East, and he joins me now. Ben, good to have you with us. It's a very intense story that you tell, and lots of video on your website, and we're going to see the special tonight, the special report. But one of the biggest points that you make is that people need to understand that it's actually so much worse than the pictures that we just showed in that statement.
That's right. Every time I see a video, in the public sphere and there's a huge furore around it, I want to say to people that there's so much more happening on the ground that you don't know about. In particular, the way that children are being brainwashed, the ideological training they go through, which is creating a whole new generation of problems, and we really need to be doing more about it.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what you saw,
be scared about the future.
And you say that
fucking pause. Oh yeah. Notice that he kind of reminds me of one of the monkeys, since we're speaking of the Beatles.
Because of the brutality that you witness and the families who are ripped apart and the scrawlings of little girls on the wall where they're writing pictures of people who were beheaded in their village. I mean, it must be difficult for you to have seen this and witnessed it and to sort of see what you might describe as inaction in many ways.
It's absolutely tragic, because in some cases there's no hope at all for them. I mean, we're talking about villagers who have lost their entire male population, 400 or 500 slaughtered in massacres by these ISIS people. And when you talk to a woman who's lost 90 members of her family, and she's the last one there, and she's wailing, you understand the scale of this problem.
Oh, come on.
How about you?
There's no evidence of that happening, though. I've never seen a fucking picture, and I've looked for evidence of these town massacres that they've done.
Personally, because that's what I kept wondering watching this. We saw what happened to James Foley, Stephen Sotloff. You must have been very, very scared.
Yeah, and I was in Aleppo around the same time, and
no, he wasn't.
A lot of my colleagues knew them.
He wasn't scared.
Put things into perspective. Many people would say, why don't you pull out and stop covering the region? But the fact is, by writing this book Inside ISIS,
watch him goof around,
by continuing to report on the subject, hopefully we can bring more awareness to it. And people need to know what's happening, and they need to know the ramifications.
Did you feel that you were in the middle of a World War II type situation where you're kind of screaming to the world, don't you understand what's going on here? And what do you think Western leaders should be doing that they're not doing?
Especially
who cares? Let's cut forward a little bit. And I'm not trying to take things out of context, because I'm going to leave the link below. It's just that I have just under a minute here left. So she goes on to talk about how this is barbaric and unbelievable, and prior to that about women and how they're to be treated according to the Quran. But he goes on.
Yeah, and they are proud of many of these things. They put this propaganda out daily. We have a list of the crimes they've committed, because it's one of the
intelligence group.
A lot of people join them for precisely this reason. They're drawn to the bloodlust. They're drawn, to the sex and the violence. It's incredible. Disenchanted youths want that.
They're selling you a lie. Sex and violence and bloodlust.
A bigger hand in Iraq at the moment, and to imagine that Shia-backed militia, the Iranian-backed guys, can somehow solve this is a big problem. So no, we have to have a more hands-on approach to this, and we need to be looking at ways to do that.
Have a more hands-on approach.
Ben, you've done a great job.
You did a great job.
With this book, and I encourage everybody.
With this book. No, she's saying you did a great job selling the fucking lie with this book. Once again, he's a trained actor, and this is the Easter egg for you in the link. I might do a video on this video here. It's worth a watch.